Like, ride with me if you ride with me, you can slide with me if you feel like 550 on the 5 sticky, come get high with me, that's a deal, right? Ride with me if you ride with
Hello, everyone. My name is Cherry, and I am here with my co-caster, Short Factor, and we are here to cast the Titan Immortal League. I actually forget what number week this is, but it's one of them, and it is a regular season match between Genius Uprising and Team 6 Gaming.
Yeah, it should be an interesting match to get into. I did a little bit of research, and it seems like both of these teams tend to value like AD picks in the jungle, and so supplementing that with a strong AP pick in the mid lane can really help out. But it also can lead to targets in terms of like champ pool and such. And I believe this is Fearless, correct?
Yes, this is Fearless, and also due to my lovely producer, I now know that it is week 3. So, to starting to get in the thick of it in terms of the regular season. I don't believe I have the specific standings for both these two teams. If Miss Golden could get me that information as well. But we are going to be getting into the draft in just a second. When you're doing your research for Factor, were there any specific picks that you're excited to see either picked or maybe some good bands that popped up?
Uh, I suspect we're gonna see a Kennen ban and probably a Talon ban as well. The Kaiskar was definitely a Kennen player, had a lot of games on Kennen, and I believe it was Vayne Ripper who had a lot of games on Talon. Yeah, 145 games this season in solo queue on Talon, so I expect that neither of them are going to make it through the ban phase.
Yeah, definitely. And then looking at the standings for both these two teams, I believe have not picked up a win yet. Genius Uprising having a rescheduled match being 0-1, and Team 6 Gaming being 0-2. So, looking at the bright side, one of these teams is going to win tonight. It would be very
Yeah,
impressive if both of them manage to lose. So, these teams are, this is kind of a must-win week for both of them because you really don't want to be going into the back half of the regular season with a big fat 0 onto your scorecard.
definitely. And getting a win here can generate so much momentum heading into the back half of the season, just in terms of morale more than anything. Obviously, you got to win more games, but getting that boost in terms of mentality can be a huge deal.
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned these players with their signature picks. Vayne Ripper, plays a lot of these carry junglers. You mentioned the talent. I also know that he's known for his ability to play other carry champs like the Evelynn. These champions we don't really see that much in a competitive setting, let alone at this 600 LP level. But on the other side, highest mastery champion for the Rickus Rick is, I believe it's that Kha'Zix as well. So both these players, definitely capable of deviating from the meta if they find an angle in the draft. I mean, it is very possible that we will just see, the standard bruiser slash engage tanks from the jungler. As we are getting straight into the bans, Team 6 Gaming on the blue side going to opt to ban that Syndra first, and Genius Uprising. You mentioned the Kennen earlier from Kaiskar. That's going to be instantly banned away on the red side.
Yeah, I'm a bit curious here. Okay, so it is going to be both the Syndra and the Vladimir. That was the next thing I was going to talk about. Deimos plays both of these as his main picks. If they want to fully ban him out, the Ahri would be the next one to go for, but I think both of these picks can be really strong. I've seen a couple of really impressive Vlad games that have shown off the power of that pick, especially when it can get into positions where it really has a chance to assassinate you and just set up the team for success. But it will be the Xayah ban instead.
Yeah, Xayah ban was really interesting because on the side of Genius Uprising, they had already banned the Vi, and I feel like if Xayah was something that Genius Uprising would be looking at, they would have been fine leaving like an engaged tank like the Vi up, but it's going to be the Pantheon locked in B1 for Team 6 Gaming, mostly being picked in the jungle right now, but is flexible to many other roles, including both solo lanes and potentially support, depending on how comfortable these players are on these champions. It's going to be the Scion in response for Genius Uprising. That seems to be pretty champion that's pretty much locked to the top lane, most likely going to be going to Proven No IQ, as that's going to be the Jhin locked in as well for side of Genius Uprising.
Yeah, I think the Pantheon does also function as a great denial pick here. We know Vayne Ripper likes to play these AD champions, and getting one that's beneficial in terms of dueling can be a big deal in the jungle matchup, especially after the 1-2 not having a jungler picked for GNU. I think that could open up an avenue where they kind of draft themselves into a corner if they don't take it here on 3.
Yes, we see a bit of a dive composition coming out, and that's actually going to be, that's the card that's locked in. I'll talk about that in a second. As on the side of Team 6 Gaming, we have Pantheon, Tristana, Aurora, these champions that really just want to run through the enemy team with the ultimate, and now this makes sense as to why the Xayah ban was locked in early game for Team 6 Gaming, as they just want to dive straight into the squishy backliners of Genius Uprising. And the Jhin, a champion, very, very immobile, doesn't have, the self-peel tools that someone like the Xayah or Ezreal would have. And Karthus as well, another champion, does not have any mobility spells in his kit. And so it's going to be very vulnerable to just getting exploded by the composition of Team 6 Gaming.
I'm curious about both the Gwen and the Olaf bans. Obviously my read could be wrong, but it makes sense to me to take the Aurora, looking to put her into the top lane in order to answer a blind Scion, as we're going to see Leona come out here, another good engage tool, but honestly, if the enemy team is engaging onto you, I feel like it gets a little less value here.
Definitely, and Leona blind going to be answered with the Rel, a champion that is very fine playing into Leona. Leona can't really stop Rel from doing what she wants to do, which is to W and press R on your Jhin and your Karthus. It's going to be the Galio locked in as that 5th pick, so as you mentioned, it's most likely going to be the Aurora in the top lane, with the Pantheon jungle and Galio mid, and these 5 champions just want to walk in a straight line and press R, but to be a Cho'Gath locked in R5. So
this is interesting. I think this is going to be a Cho'Gath mid here. I believe it was Deimos who was playing a good bit of Cho'Gath in the mid lane. No, it was actually Fatblade who had the Cho'Gath games. That's interesting to me then, because it's not a denial pick on R5, but it clearly is a pick that to me is intended to go into the mid lane. It seems a bit odd not only to pick the AP tank into the Galio, but also to pick it into someone who knows the matchups of Cho'Gath very well.
Yeah, the thing about Cho'Gath is, as the side of Genius Uprising, you can't really afford to pick a squishy champion that is going to be one-shot by Team 6 Gaming, and Cho'Gath as a champion, once he gets his items, once he gets his feast stacks, is going to be very, very hard for these champions to burst out. The only real source of high DPS that TSG has is this Tristana pick, and it's going to be very hard to kill both the Cho'Gath and the Scion, and eventually the Leona. And if, Vayne Ripper on the Karthus and Immortal Doge on the Jhin are able to live long enough in the fights, then suddenly it's going to be a lot harder for Team 6 Gaming to play. Additionally, I think Cho'Gath can really... We'll see whether it's going to be the Cho'Gath or the Scion mid. Both of these champions... I mean, the Cho'Gath... Yeah, so it's going to be the Scion mid, and then Cho'Gath top into the Aurora. And Scion, as a champion, doesn't really care about what Galio wants to do, is going to do. These 2 champions are just here for their teamfight utility. And Cho'Gath, with the sustain that he has in his passive, might be able to survive the early poke that Kaiskar is going to be able to put out. And Cho'Gath with his W silence, if he gets close enough and Kaiskar, steps too far up, if he gets silenced into a Q, he's going to get one-tapped by that Feast ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's a great read here to put proven no IQ on the Cho'Gath, because I had thought about it while we were waiting for the actual lane assignments to come through. There is a world where you rotate Galio up to the top lane, and I think having Aurora in the mid lane is a little more useful for roaming purposes. Getting down bot lane and dropping that ultimate can do a lot in the early game, especially into something like a Jhin. Setting him behind is pretty ideal here, but you were also talking about surviving the burst from TSG, and I think it is pretty tricky. You talked about Jhin being immobile. Karthus is too. They're not going to have a lot of answers if these members of TSG start jumping onto them.
Yeah, and I feel like this Jhin pick sort of suffers from the draft that it's around, because when you have these 3 big frontline champions, you typically want an AD carry that's able to put out a little more sustained DPS. Jin's power budget is more into his long range and his utility. And yes, he does have the forward shot to follow up on other damage, but you haven't really drafted much in the way of damage. It's just a bunch of setup CC champions and Karthus. Karthus does a lot of damage, so is feels like a little harder for this Jhin to really execute on the composition that he wants to. I mean, that's sort of what happens when you pick Jhin super early into a draft. You're sort of just sacrificing, the pick. There's a lot of things that can beat him, and it's going to be up to Immortal Doge to sort of get a lead, in the early game while surviving the massive amounts of pressure that this TSG composition can place on him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that'll be crucial here is going to be Nominee on this Leona, because as much as she doesn't function as a standard pick for denial of engage, she still definitely can be that champion to zone away these melee champions, especially trying to get in onto her backline with the obviously auto attack stun, being able to follow it up and just lock a target down. If they have to walk into you, it's pretty good value.
Yeah, definitely. As Leona, going to sort of have to play a different role than she normally does. Normally we see Leona as this like dive engage champion, but mainly if she can use that utility to stop these like very important engage champions like the Tristana, like the Aurora, like the Pantheon, that can create the space that the Jhin and the Karthus need to get their damage down. And Karthus as well, even if he goes down in the initial engage or early into the fight, he does have that Death-Defied passive, and he still will be able to put out some DPS for around like 7 to 8 seconds. So it's going to be something that I'm not sure that TSG is going to be used to. We don't really see that much Karthus in comp. I know it's a champion that Vayne Ripper is very confident on, these like hard carry champions. So we're gonna have to see in the team fights how that ends up playing out. Do we get into game looking at runes, trying to see if there's anything strange, but everything looks pretty standard from both sides. Early game, Karthus probably just going to look to get his full clear done uninterrupted. Really wants to use the strength of that that Q isolated damage to get level 4 as fast as possible, not fight the Pantheon.
Yeah, for sure. I do think it's a little peculiar to see Jhin take cleanse here. Obviously, it's pretty stock standard into Leona, but into Rel, it's not something you see as often, and there aren't too many intense stuns like a Sejuani Bola or an Ash Arrow to really catch you out from a super long range. So I think it's a bit of a curious selection here.
Yeah, actually, I was looking at the runes. I didn't even notice the summoner spells. Cleanse really going to be effective against like Rel Q, Galio W. Yes, you can cleanse like Pantheon W, but it feels like perhaps a different summoner spell like Barrier, even the Exhaust may have been more useful. We'll have to see how much value this Jhin gets out of the cleanse. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of CC and lockdown coming out of this team that is in knockup form. Rel W, Rel Ult, Galio knockup. He has two of them, in fact. So there's a lot that Jhin just cannot cleanse, and we'll have to
Yeah,
see if he
absolutely.
actually gets any value out of this.
And while it is true that cleanse does technically work on knockups, you still have to invest the flash in order to get any use out of it, so almost always it's not going to be worth it to go ahead and use a cleanse on a knockup unless you absolutely can change the fight by doing so.
Yeah, as we get into early lane phase, we see this Sion and the Scalio sort of beating each other up in the mid lane. Deimos on this pick, sort of, I don't know if the Galio was picked in intention, that, it could be a Sion mid, but we see that Deimos is just able to get so much damage off on these trades, canceling the Galio's Justice Punch with the charged Q, and Deimos already has a bit of an HP lead. Galio, as a blind champion, sort of really likes playing into magic damage, and Sion, not a typical
Oh,
magic damage mage. We see Rigby flashed forward, burned the cleanse, and gets the first kill onto a Mortar Doge. The only thing that Jhin was able to cleanse there was an ignite, and it didn't save him. So sort of 0 for 1 on the cleanse saving the Jhin counter. I'm gonna keep track of that. Now,
Yeah,
now I'm
please
like
do.
I'm emotionally invested in this Jhin cleanse, to be honest. That is a huge play for this side of Team Six Gaming. Rigby on this Tristana already able to get a lead. He did go the lethal tempo, which is sort of the standard like you know rune for Tristana, but it does mean that in addition to having a good early game, like she's not going to be useless late game. She is the sort of, as I mentioned, draft the late game DPS threat for Team Six Gaming. The fact that she's already getting ahead, building her way up towards that Yuntao Wild Arrows means that it's going to be that much harder for Omoto Doge to really be able to play League of Legends.
Yeah, I want to go ahead and call out why I think that play was so easy for Rigby as well. We did see a double invade, Pantheon on the bot side and Karthus on
You
the
see
top
another jump
side. So
coming in. Mordo's going to get the root onto Rigby. That's going to be the full charge passive. The Tristan not going to get the jump reset, but the Rick is here. And Rigby's going to pick up his second kill of the game. The bot wave does crash, so there's not going to be an opportunity for a freeze. But this is again another massive kill being given over to Tristana. 2 kills before 5 minutes. Huge early game lead for the side of Team Six Gaming.
yeah, and again, it's exactly what I was talking about. Pantheon stays on the bot side of the map, able to help make another play happen there. Chaining of CC done brilliantly. And all in all, I think it's really good early pathing from the Rickest Rick, using the fact that while yes, the ISO cues from this Karthus can hurt, in the 1v1, Pantheon is incredibly strong, and you can sort of just bully the Karthus out of his jungle unless his lanes have prio, doing a really good job of leveraging that.
Yeah, definitely. As we see, the pro comps draft score, it's giving a pretty significant draft edge to TSG, and I I'm sort of inclined to agree. Maybe I'm just being a hater on this. We see a play happening. Vein Ripper now in the bot lane, looking for a play into Rigby, but Rigby stands his ground, gets a full charge E onto Vein Ripper. Karth is going to be taking the half health Projecki with the remount. He's going to get the stun onto Nominee. Rigby looking for that first kill. Nominee flashes away. That's going to be first kill actually given over to Vein Ripper. There's not enough damage coming out from the blue side bot lane, and the Karthus is able to pick up the double kill and shut down as well. Massive play for Vein Ripper. Rigby got a little too confident after getting, that big chunk onto the Karthus, but once Rel went in, they just didn't have enough damage, and Karthus getting those isolated Qs onto the Rel and then eventually onto Ristana is massive gold swing for the bot lane and jungle of GNU. As we see Deimos walked into red side jungle, gonna pop the ultimate, gonna hit on the Kai's card, but Galliot is here. Fatal Blade has made his way in. Rickus Rick gets the stun onto Deimos. He has no mana, he has no HP. He's gonna go down. Feats of Warfare for the blue team. Vein Ripper is back though, trades 1 kill down onto Fatal Blade. The Rickus Rick is going to run away. He should be able to make it out, but Vein Ripper was looking for scraps. Kai's card gonna cancel his base, gets the combo down onto the Karthus in the bot lane. Meanwhile, Rigby has found the isolated pick onto Immortal Doge. He's gonna go down again, but he is gonna pick up a trade kill onto Projecki. Rigby going to jump out of that play. And we saw off of that turn that Kai's card managed to happen. The Rickus Rick able to follow up and pick up a kill onto Vein Ripper. All in all, a bunch of kills went down. I think it was a 3-for-2 overall for the side of Team 6 Gaming, but just massive amounts of fighting happening across the map.
Yeah, it's fighting all over the place. And again, we see a 2v1 scenario there where Leona's not present in the bot lane. She's not able to help out. It was a 4v3 in the top lane. That's where Leona had been. And that's why she wasn't in the bot lane to help her ADC. But overall, a fantastic heroic entrance is able to give the space that the team needs, kite back, and then when Vein Ripper overextends, they pounce.
Yeah, and we see Projecki and Nominee have both made their way to the mid lane as it seems both teams are preparing to fight over this first Chemtech Dragon.
Yeah, I don't know
Rickus
that
Rick
it's a
gets
fight
this
you.
He gets the stun down onto Nominee. That's going to be a stun from Projecti as well. Blasco not going to be hit. Nominee is back in. Mortadoge is here first before Rigby. And this is going to be a 3v4 in favor of Genius Uprising. Projecti going to go down to the fourth shot. And, the rest of TSG just has to limp away. And Mortadoge actually had Prio in the bot lane, able to sort of get advantage of the wave in the 1v1 against Tristana. Despite the kill advantage that Tristana had and able to turn that numbers advantage. Nominee, it looked a little scary for him, but knowing that his AD carry had the first move, choosing to go in anyways, we see a trade from the Fatal Blade go in onto Deimos. Just gonna use that phase rush to run away. Galio sort of ran out of damage after a certain point. Dragon not going to be started by either team though, so it looks like we're probably going to have another skirmish for this objective. As Rigby from the bush jumps onto Immortal Doge, uses the Buster Shot to push Immortal Doge back, and now he has nowhere to run. Tries to get a trade kill onto Rigby, but he is going to be reloading until he dies. Fourth kill of the game for this Tristana, and I think, yeah, that's going to be the Dragon started up by Team 6 Gaming. Vayne Repper on the Grubs, just going to play for the cross map.
Yeah, I like the trade here from Vayne Ripper. It's the smart thing to do. What I was gonna say, I didn't think that was a fight that really wanted to happen from TSG because you didn't have the numbers advantage. Even without the numbers advantage, a 2v4 was far from the best way that that fight could have happened, but they're so smart about sticking around just long enough to manage a play back into their favor. And while we will see it come at the cost of the top side of the Rickest Ricks jungle here, I do think it's still safe as long as Kaiskar can stay alive if a dive does come through.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very good cross map by Vayne Ripper. As the Karthus, you just want to be clearing your camps time over time over time over time. And we see he's already built up a bit of a CS lead. However, Pantheon ultimate going down onto the Karthus. He may go down. That's the Aurora ult as well. Rick is Rick going to pick up the kill onto the Karthus. Sion ulting in. That's going to be the Requiem going down. Is it going to be enough damage to take down Projecki? Yes, it will. But Galio with the ultimate is going to follow up. Proven no IQ is going to go down, and it seems Deimos will be next. Fatal Blade does have no mana, though. Kaiskar finally getting his cooldowns back, going to pick up a double kill there. And Vayne Ripper got the camp lead, got the blue buff, but stayed a little too long. The global power of that Pantheon Grand Starfall is able to secure 3 kills for the side of Team 6 Gaming.
And the grand entrance, or the heroic entrance, sorry, is also incredibly helpful to mitigate the amount of damage coming out from that Requiem. We saw 2 global ults come out from each side, but the impact of the globals of TSG was just a little better because the first one was proactive and the second one was able to be reactive, as opposed to 2 reactive ults on the side of GNU.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
then we will see an invade, although it looks like it's just a ward down.
Yeah, not much action happening. Both of these first objectives have gone down, so it's sort of time for at least the Karthus just wants to be clearing his camps. In the mid lane, these guys are just going to keep hitting each other, and Sion is going to eventually farm grass stacks off of it. So as it goes later and later, it's going to be easier and easier for the Sion to sort of get priority and get these trades. Obviously, Galio is not going to be losing too much. Galio is not a champion that you have to necessarily get a huge laning advantage against, but Sion, this scaling tank, having the grasp and that infinitely stacking HP passive, is very happy just trading back and forth with the Galio.
He absolutely is, and with 2 solo lane tanks, it sort of begs the question of what Fatal Blade's thought process was taking the phase rush here. I know it is a popular rune on Galio, but it's not uncommon to see Grasp, and in a matchup where you've landed so many autos, you have to wonder if it might have had more value here.
Yeah, definitely. As we'll have to see if Galio is able to use his move speed. I do agree there's a lot less value on the phase rush when you're playing into a bunch of bulky champions and 2 immobile champions. It feels like it's a rune that's better suited into a draft that is different than the one that we have been presented with now. But we see, looking at the CS leads in each lane, Deimos has picked up around almost 3 waves now of, I mean, Galio's going to catch a wave. So it's about a 2-wave CS lead for the Sion. Does have that Demolish as well. Maybe it's going to pick up the plate. No, yes, he does actually at the last second with the Grub's burn and pick up the plate. I see a gank potentially happening in the top lane. Kaiskar going to be the target. Vayne Ripper's here gets the slow. That's going to be the flash from the Aurora. Cho'Gath Q does not hit, but the card this Q in isolation
Requiem.
going to bring him down to Requiem range, and Kaiskar can do nothing but sit and watch. That's going to be the 4th kill of the game for Vayne Ripper on this Karthus. Really sort of the only hope that GNU has as sort of a late game carry threat. Um, Jin is 2 and 4, just really having a rough time in this lane and still gonna have a rough time in team fights. So looking towards this Karthus as sort of the big DPS threat that the tanks are creating space for, as Nominee, phase check the bush, gets the ward, and gets stunned up. Immortal Doge is here with the ultimate. Rick is going to come in, get the the stun, force the flash from Nominee, teleport from Proven No IQ. That's the Cho'Gath coming down from the base. Rickus Rick picks up first kill onto Nominee. Kaiskar matched the TP of his fellow top laner, looks for a chunk onto Immortal Doge. Will the bomb kill? No, it will not. Did not have enough stacks, and that's going to be Deimos TPing in as well. It's going to be a full-on team fight. Jumping in from Rickus Rick gets the stun, but Deimos is tanky. 5 members strong, though. They're eventually going to cut down the Psy, and the Buster shot into the explosive charge is going to be a kill. Rigby going on a killing spree, and the Scion Pass is not going to be able to get anything done, as that is a big team fight win for Team 6 Gaming, able to burn both teleports from the enemy team. Rigby jumps in,
Rigby
he
wants
wants
more.
more, gets the reset onto Proven No IQ, but doesn't have the mana to jump back in. Probably shouldn't jump back in onto Leona. Pantheon is here though, finds an angle onto Karthus. He's going to get knocked up by the Cho'Gath Q silence. Do they have enough damage to kill the Rickus Rick? He is going to go down so low, but it's going to be the snipe. The Rickus Rick goes unstoppable with a massive Q onto the enemy Cho'Gath.
And again, we see that the big difference in this game is TSG is
Kaiskar!
so smart. Oh,
Oh, Kaiskar stops the base with the Q and gets it with the burn. Vein Ripper goes down. That is a massive swing of tempo. Rickus Rick going to be able to get the dragon uncontested for free. Gonna have time to get his base before Vein Ripper is even back on the map. And this is huge for the side of Team 6 Gaming. They're going to be able to open up top side now and have a really easy time contesting this Rift Herald that's coming up soon.
yeah, and all of that comes off of the fact that they forced at such a specific time that even though the dragon hadn't spawned by the time they had won the fight, because they stayed around and were able to keep putting pressure on those
Pantheon
recalls.
ult goes down onto the Jin. Jin way too far forward, looking for that top tower, but gets absolutely one-tapped. The Rickus Rick dominating on this Pantheon.
Yeah, you cannot step up against a Pantheon. That Grand Starfall will crush you as an 80 carry, especially with the Ghostblade Jin here. You have no survivability to speak of. You get stunned and it is lights out.
Yeah, definitely. And now there's no real way for GNU to contest this Rift Herald. We just have Proven No IQ trying to make his way to the top lane with the help of Nominee to stop that first tower, but Rigby's going to get it anyway. And now Proven No IQ may be the play. Rigby second the lethal tempo, doesn't have the explosive charge up though, not going to look for a commit there. That's going to be the Rift Herald going down, and I believe that will be the Feats of Warfare, or they may have gotten it before, but 3 objectives, first tower, 3 kills. They do have all of the conditions required, so very strong early game lead already for the side of Team 6 Gaming. And when we look at the scaling of both sides, it's really going to come down to the scaling Tristana versus potentially the scaling Karthus. And right now, given the state of the game, I'm putting my money on the Tristana. This Pantheon is so strong as well. It sort of acts as that bridge to get Team 6 Gaming into a very advantageous position come late game.
Yeah, I do think that Karthus is fed enough to warrant a Maw of Malmortius, or perhaps building into a Wit's End instead, but with the way that the Rickest Rick has been able to navigate these Grand Starfalls, I think that the threat on the backline of GNU is just so high. We are seeing some trading in the bot lane here. Doesn't look like it'll be too much, although if Kaiskar wants, does have the ultimate to go deeper.
Yeah, we see the mid tower going down with the siege power of this Tristana and the rest of the blue side team. They're gonna move down. Now the last outer tower that is left up is the spot lane outer, and it seems pretty indefensible by the side of Genius Uprising. We see on the minimap, Karthus and Leona and Jin all making their way towards the top side, looking for the potential cross map. It is going to be hard to cross map though, because you are trying to like cross map and potentially dive a Galio. Unless Fatal Blade makes a mistake, he should be able to survive the increased presence on their top side.
Yeah, no plays happening. I think a Gromp got stolen, but you're not too worried about that as the Rickest Rick. He is rich beyond his wildest dreams at the moment, and this Cho'Gath could be in trouble. Grand Starfall is up and available. If the Rickest Rick wants another kill to happen, it probably is gonna right now.
Yeah, definitely. We see, looking at Cho'Gath's itemization, he does have that Canic Rookern. Obviously, sort of a necessary evil to build against, an AP poke champion like the Aurora. But that means that when a play is happening, the Pantheon that does all physical damage is going to cut down this Cho'Gath, proven no IQ, going to get CC change. Rigby as well, making his way here. The kill is actually going to be safe. Nope, never mind. Rick is Rick. Pokes the Cho'Gath and he dies. I thought potentially they would have saved it for the AD carry, but in the Rick is Rick, a carry threat in his own right. That is his 7th kill this game. Has a around 800 gold lead over the Karthus, despite the CS discrepancy. Vainripper doing his best to try and gain a lead through camps, picking up certain kills through the Requiem, but the Rick has just been on a tear through the map. He's gonna sweep. He's gonna find. No, he's not gonna find Nominee. He's gonna watch Nominee as Nominee goes home, as just very very risky base from the bot side of Genius Uprising. But as they say in the business, never punish. As the third dragon is going to come up, Team 6 Gaming looking to put themselves on Soul Point play, potentially happening onto this teleport. Damo's going to be taunted up, Brickus Rick with the CC chain following up, and that's going to be the ultimate force defensively. That's a huge engage tool. Burnt, Brickus Rick going to flash away from the Leona E. Now it's going to be onto Nominee and that Solar Flare. That's now your only big real go button as Rickus Rick decides to go in himself. Gets knocked up by the Scion Cube, but does have the abilities to stay alive. The Aurora ult is massive onto 4 people. Rigby is untouched on the back of the fight, as it's looking like it's going to be a bit of a wipe for the side of Team 6 Gaming. Proven no IQ, the only member left alive. Deimos, the zombie passive, is going to run out soon, as I have a bit of lag on my end, but Proven no IQ will eventually go down. Does not have that flash able to get over the wall. That's going to be an ace picked up by Rigby. Only the Rickus Rick going down, and I don't know who picked up that shutdown kill. But I know Pantheon had a bit of a bounty, so it did not go to the Karthus, which sort of is who it has to go to. And Karthus is really just where you want to be putting all your gold, putting all your resources. And the fact that Karthus is not the one that is getting the shutdown is, absolutely massive for the side of Team 6 Gaming, because that's, you know, pretty much the enemy's win condition, not getting a massive gold injection. That is the dragon that was secured by Team 6 Gaming. They also are going to pick up the Otacon as a little extra treat for them, as now this gold lead has ballooned to 5,000 gold. Soul point as well for Team 6 Gaming, and looking like they're going to be able to close this one out pretty handily.
Yeah, I don't see anything going wrong. That Magnet Storm was massive. Hitting onto 4 or 5 targets there was huge from Projeki, because at the start of that, the Decimate from the Scion actually looked good to disrupt Fatal Blade, to disrupt the Rickest Rick, but you were all too close together. Punished by Team 6 Gaming was immense, and I think it was a Cho'Gath feast that took down the Rickest Rick and gave that shutdown over to the Cho'Gath. Has the Heartsteel done now, but it's a little late in the game for a Heartsteel. You're not going to be stacking it too fast.
Heartsteel at 21 minutes has to be like, that's insane, no? What do I
Yeah,
know?
it's not my personal pick for itemization at this point in the game, as there is an overload of pressure on the top side, and I don't think this Cho'Gath is going to be wanting to get all of these Heartsteel stacks.
Yeah, I mean, this Cho'Gath doesn't have a completed armor item besides the Ninja Tab Eyes, so this damage coming out from Rigby and the Rickest Rick, 7 kills on each of them, as we see proven no IQ. I mean, yeah, he gets a Heartsteel proc, but he's lost almost half of his HP. This could be an engage though. Deimos with the Scion ultimate gonna hit onto Fatal Blade. Fatal Blade gonna get chunked, Justice Punch, but knocks up the Cho'Gath, has to flash out, gets rooted up by the Jhin. Curtain Call coming down. Will they be able to get the execute onto this Galio? Proven no IQ. Gonna feast, get another shutdown on the Cho'Gath. Surely you just let the Jhin fourth shot that guy, right? Like, am I going crazy? I might be going crazy.
I
As is,
I feel I sense a lack of trust on that 4th shot there, but regardless, a kill is a kill, I suppose, as Kaiskar could be in
yeah, I
trouble
mean,
here. That
yeah,
is,
Genius Uprising looking for the pick. Kaiskar uses the W movement speed to get away from Deimos's Q. I think Kaiskar, if he has to, he can use the ultimate and escape tool as well. I don't think Genius Uprising is able to really find a pick onto this Aurora right now. Yes, they got
yeah, it
one
was
kill, they got a shutdown, but like their Jin is still on food stamps. He is, 2, 6, and 4, just finished the collector, and he needs to get to this, Infinity Edge at some point this game. If Genius Uprising are gonna win, they need to get some gold onto the AD carry. They need to get some more gold onto Vein Ripper, And right now, it does not look like that's happening. Maybe Cho'Gath with that Golden Fusion is going to be able to pick up the Randuin's Omen. That has to be a Randuin's Omen, yeah. So maybe with that armor item, that'll allow him to create the space that he needs. I'm doubtful, to be honest. I think his team is just going to get one shot behind him regardless. But as we see another play happening, this time onto the Scion, Rictus Rick with the Grand Starfall, going to have the stun immuned by the Scion ultimate. Unstoppable Onslaught going to the mid lane. Rigby jumps away though, does not get caught up by that knockup, and Deimos is going to walk away with his life.
Yeah, not much you can do to really stop Scion once he's just running from you with that ultimate. Aside from if you can reposition in front of him, obviously, to take the knockup there. But very nearly has himself a play as there was a fight going on in the mid lane as well.
Yeah,
Not
and we see in the top lane, Proven No IQ does have that teleport and is threatening to solo take this top inner tower. The side of Team 6 Gaming posturing to at least trade the mid inner and the bot inner. However, wave clear, Nominee looking for a pick onto Kaisar. He's going to get stunned up himself, has to flash out. The Aurora ultimate goes down, hits onto 2. Nominee drops solo, doesn't hit anyone that Zenith play. Projeki coming behind, looking for the low health members. Gets the Magnet Storm in on his own, but is really just there to create space as the rest of Team 6 Gaming are able to take down Deimos and that inner tower. Proven No IQ took that top inner tower in trade and teleported in, but Projeki was actually able to kill the Leona. Hold on, that's kind of insane. Rel creating space in the backline against 3 people gets the 1-for-1 as well. Proven No IQ now no longer has really anything to do with his teleport as Team 6 Gaming going to be able to get their bases off. The Dragon is coming up in 15 seconds, so it's technically a little bit of a late reset for the side of Team 6 Gaming. Teleport coming out from Fatal Blade, though. They don't want to let this soul get denied from them for free. Vein Ripper and Immortal Doge going to try and secure that mid priority. Proven IQ is with them. Deimos has that TP as well. He's going to TP pretty far away from the dragon, potentially looking to find a flank with his ultimate. They really do not want to give over this Infernal Soul to Team 6 Gaming. Rick is Rick going to get slowed up, but does dodge a Cho'Gath Q. Rooted, is there going to be more of a CC chain? That's going to be a knock-up. Rest of the team is fighting, though. Kaiskar secures mid-priority for Team 6 Gaming. And this is going to be a good old-fashioned 5v5, Proven No IQ. Looking to step forward, Rick is Rick. He's looking for the W, he's looking for the opportunity, finds it onto a Mortar Doge actually. That's going to secure the Galio ultimate into the Aurora ultimate, and the front line is getting cut down. Nominee goes down first, that can be Magnet Storm onto 2. Rigby jumps back into the back line, gets a kill onto Vein Ripper, gets another kill onto Immortal Doge. He is going to get shut down by Proven No IQ's Feast. Proven No IQ picks up another one actually. Maybe this Cho'Gath was right in taking the money. Kaiskar, however, on the backline does not want to let his team go down. Kaiskar picks up a kill onto Cho'Gath, looking to pick up the kill onto Deimos as well. That is going to be an ace for Team 6 Gaming, and the Infernal Soul secured for them as well.
Yeah, I think in the setup there, the lack of vision killed Genius Uprising, because if you had information that their jungler had reset, didn't have Grand Starfall on him, maybe there's a world where you use Karthus in conjunction with the Cho'Gath to sneak that dragon away. The Feast and the Smite can put out a lot of burst damage to take it out quickly, but weren't able to do so, and it was almost a great fight, but there was a couple of really good angles. Rigby jumping onto Vein Ripper, and the initial engage by the Rickest Rick to get that Galio hero's entrance into everyone was really important. But I think while I was yapping, Fatal Blade was dying.
Fatal Blade, they decided Team 6 Gaming pushed up a little too far and stayed on the map for a little too long. Nominee off of respawn was able to secure that pick. Kaiskar as well is going to be forced to base. That is going to secure Baron Vision for the side of Genius Uprising, but it's not going to secure them the objective itself. They're going to have to find another pick for that. And Deimos looking for the ultimate. Rigby has no jump now. It's going to get tanked up by the Rickest Rick, using that E to immune a bunch of damage, but now he doesn't have that spell. Rickest Rick has to flash away. He has 1 HP left. Kaiskar is back in the way. Hits the ultimate onto 5. Immortal Doge goes down, and now Rigby is going to have his reset, so doesn't want to jump in through the Karthus passive, though. Finally jumps in, looks for the Cho'Gath. He is going to get the kill. No, it's actually going to go over to Kaiskar, and Projeki just creating that space. It looked like a potential good pick, but the Rickest Rick able to flash away, and the rest of his team had enough damage to follow up. And it was a huge ultimate from Kaiskar. Hits 5 members, 9, 1, and 12 on this Aurora. Absolutely drowning in money. And Projecti is just 1v1ing the enemy mid laner because we're just doing whatever at this
There's
point.
no way, right?
No, I mean, there's a way. Rel has Shield Break and Infernal Soul, and Deimos just has to run away. Rel E also, I believe, does percent health damage. That's going to be the Q to stun up the Scion, break the Q, and break the shield. Honestly, biggest Rel Q value that I've ever seen is if we can get the camera back onto this Rel 1v1, that's going to be this Karthus ultimate coming out. This Galio ult comes out as well, and Fatal Blade is going to pick it up. But I mean, Rel did win that 1v1, and they had to.
She absolutely did. For as long as it was a 1v1, she won it. Um, I definitely think that the ult usage from Team 6 Gaming has been incredibly good. We've seen Kaiskar following up on every single Magnet Storm by just dropping a ton of damage with the Aurora ult, and Cho'Gath was threatening a pretty intense feast onto Rigby again there. The Buster Shot was able to get him away from that, so a couple of really important things happening in that fight in order to make sure that there's no threat on Team 6 Gaming by Genius Uprising there.
Yeah, definitely. Just the power of these ultimates, and the main thing that I want to point out is the amount of damage sources that Team 6 Gaming has. Yes, it was a good initial pick. Sort of the Rick Rick gave his life for his or gave most of his HP for his Tristana, tanking out that Scion ultimate so it didn't hit Rigby after the jump. And that means that, the Rick Rick not really able to be a big damage threat in the fight, but it doesn't matter because you have a 10 kill Tristana and a 9 kill Aurora, and contrast that to the side of Genius Uprising, where the damage shots that you have is Karthus, and then the second highest damage champion that you have is your Cho'Gath. I refuse to consider no Infinity Edge Shin at 30 minutes a damage threat at this point in the game. He has sort of been on the struggle bus. That's going to be a knockup onto Kaiskar, but the CC chain not layered properly. Kaiskar able to double you out before the Scion Q hits. That's going to be a root though. Scion Q again, there's not enough crowd control being hit onto Kaiskar, and if you're not fully CC chaining the champions, you're not one-shotting him through that single burst. I mean, you don't have enough damage to poke them out. Kaiskar, the single QE, did more damage than the entire Genius Uprising team did to him in that entire sequence. That's
Yeah,
going
I
to be the
think
inhibitor tower going down, and Proven No IQ is going to get one tapped. That's going to be a triple in him going down. It seems like Team 6 Gaming can end the game right here if they execute it properly. Sion going to hit the ult. It's going to be blocked up by the Rickus Rick. The stun is going to stop the Sion Q. Deimos has to flash away. So a lot of resources being burned from the red team, and we saw that explosive charge. There's so much damage to the Sion. The Rickus Rick going under the tower. Projecti with the engage, and it's going to be an absolute wipe. Team 6 Gaming take a dominant start to the series, going to lead series 1-0.
Yeah, fantastic game one from Team 6 there. Just dominant from start to finish. There were a couple of moments where it looked like maybe there was a possibility of Genius Uprising coming back in the early game. You had a lot of kills onto that Karthus early, but aside from that, it was just Team 6 all the way through. Team fighting was beautiful.
Definitely. I think there are some questions to be had about draft. I kind of hate R1 Jin and then pairing it with Sion Cho'Gath solo lanes. It's clear that this Jin was just targeted in the early game by just, first of all, by the 2v2 by Rigby and Projecti, just able to find those angles in the early game pretty easily. And then once the Rickus Rick showed up, it was curtains for the Jin and any chance of him getting any money this game. They took that early game advantage at the Pantheon and Tristana Secure and really just brought it across the map. The Rickus Rick on this Pantheon, so many good Grand Starfalls that even though they had these tanky solo laners on the side of Genius Uprising, just the sheer numbers that Team 6 Gaming was able to bring meant that these picks were still able to be possible.
Yeah, and I think that overall the theme of the game was just knowing when you can stick around in a fight. We saw Team 6 time and again was sticking around and fighting and then refighting, whereas it felt like every time anyone on Genius Uprising tried to step forward, there was a Pantheon coming down, tossing that spear down, and just making another pick happen.
Definitely.
To be honest...
Yep, you go.
Go ahead. Okay. To be honest, in game two, I think the adaptation here is that you need to make sure you have a second damage threat that can be a DPS threat, right? We didn't see that in the Jhin. Jhin is more of a facilitator champion. He can output a lot of damage if he gets ahead, but if he's not, he's sort of the backup, right? He can finish things off really effectively, but getting people down to low HP is not his specialty. Seeing something more along the lines of a Jinx, maybe a Kaisa, in order to really enable your AD carry to play the game he wants to play, is pretty important here, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be a specific champion. I think it has to be literally anything that's not Jhin or like Ashe. Even like Ashe has like some DPS she has to slow. I just think that this Jhin is like completely incongruent with the draft that they had prepared. They picked the Jinx early, so the enemy team picked the draft that absolutely ruins the Jhin. Then the Jhin also took cleanse and died like level 4. So really rough game for the Jhin, to be honest. We saw Vayne Ripper able to get, the CS lead that the Karthus is supposed to get, but Karthus is a champion that really wants to be clearing. He doesn't want to be like saving his lanes from a Pantheon that's killing them. And eventually, no matter how much farm the Karthus had, the enemy team had so much more gold that he wasn't able to generate much of a lead at all.
Yeah, I think that brings up a good point. It was two lanes that were pretty stable and generally were doing okay. Obviously, Scion, not too worried, even if he does end up dying. But before dying, he's just gonna hit you and hit the wave and all that. Same with Cho'Gath, but yeah, that Jhin really made a pressure point for Team 6 to exploit, and I think they did a fantastic job of doing that.
Yeah, and we'll see what adaptations happen in the next draft as we are going to send it to a quick break and then we will get back to you with game 2. Welcome back, everyone, to Titan Esports' very own show, Kiss, Marry, Kill. I am Chelsea. We still have Short Factor here, and we have 3 eligible bachelors and bachelorettes. I sort of didn't prepare my opening for this line, but today we have Program Nami, Arcane Survivor Chase, La Illusion Nidalee, and I'm gonna throw it over to Short Factor. Walk me through this.
Okay. So, I am a fan of Nidalee, generally, and I think that of the 3, she is the best, so that's why I went with Mary, because you stay with them the longest. I'm just kind of interested about the logistics of what kissing a robot would be like, which is why I went with that one. I don't actually think visually there's anything wrong with Arcane Survivor Jace, but he was just the last option after I made those other 2 picks, so that's where I landed.
See, my concerns about Arcane Survivor Jace, he looks like he has the Arcane has hit this guy. I mean, look at his face. He is very down, and you know, he's got a lot of baggage. In fact, the entire plot of Arcane is kind of just this guy's baggage, and do you want to deal with that? Probably not. Granted, Program Nami is a robot, and that's very weird. So, again, probably not. La Illusion Nidalee for me is winning sort of by default.
By default.
Latinas scare me, frankly, personally, but they're not robots, and they don't, Arcane Day he looks like he's gonna ruin someone's life, whether that be his own or someone else. I don't want to mess anything with that. So,
Yeah, I think we kind of all hit onto the fact that Jace has baggage, because not a single one of us chose to marry him.
Look at Bro. He is going through it. Lee said that she can fix him. She can't.
Yeah.
She can't. I don't know why she thinks she can. She can't.
I mean, there was already a magical girl in his life that couldn't fix him, so I have some doubts.
No one can fix this. His whole thing with like Mel and with Victor, it's like, learning to avoid red flags is a skill in life, and a lot of people spend it's a slow process, but in the effort to that, we avoid Arcane Savior Jace because what he needs right now is a therapist.
He does need a therapist. That is absolutely true. I don't think any therapist in the world is prepared for his issues, though.
Yeah.
Especially not in Runeterra.
Program Nami, that's just the plot of that one movie that starred Scarlett Johansson. I forget who directed it. That's just messing. Yeah, it's called Her. It's that one dude that messes with the robot. I didn't watch it, to be honest. I sort of just read about it. It seemed like kind of a mid movie, if you ask me. No hate to Scarlett Johansson, she's lovely, but if they want to mess with the robot, then that's your prerogative. Don't let me judge you. I am gonna judge you, but don't let me judge you. And I'm being told by my producer that he wants to do freaky things with the sort of wires that are happening. No, that is what I'm being told. I am relaying that message to you because I am for journalistic integrity. However, I do not support, I do not endorse anything going on with that robot fish, okay?
I feel the need to point out that while you are absolutely correct that those wires are designed to go into something, that's because they're AV cords and they're supposed to go into a TV.
I beg you to not use that verbiage. Oh, no.
It could be worse, don't worry. Anyway.
I've been ruined by one Latina, but with the amount of baggage that's being presented to the left, we're just gonna run it back, I guess, I don't know.
I don't see too many problems with Nidalee, aside from the fact that I don't know how long I could survive in the wilderness. But if it's Ishtal and the jungle is chill with me, then I think that's, the best option.
Yeah, definitely. I believe at some point we're gonna go into draft, and if not, I
We
guess
will
we're not going
eventually
into
get
draft
there.
yet. Um, So, any final thoughts, comments, concerns,
Uh,
queries, manifestos?
I mean, I know at least one of the jungle pets lives in Ishtal. I want to meet it. I think it might be all of them, but I think it's the Scorchclaw that lives in Ishtal, and I
You
wanna pet the
wanna
Scorchclaw.
you wanna meet the jungle pets? I hate those jungle pets. If I
Oh,
saw
I
a
mean, I
jungle
hate
pet
him
in
in
front
game.
of me, well, yeah, I mean, I hate them in game, and they don't look. I mean, just like a red blob, a blue blob, and a green blob. Let's be so for real.
Yeah, but if it's like a red cat, that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, we have not addressed the cougar in the room and the fact that Italy can just turn into a cat. That's weird. That's strange. I don't actually know how she does that. Okay, we're getting into
Magic, I
draft. Thank.
guess.
Okay, I've been saved from the segment. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Oh God, Leo is likes to torture me. As we get into draft of game 2, sides are the same. TSG remaining on the blue side. That means we're probably gonna see pretty similar bans. One thing that I don't know if I like or dislike about Fearless is that if both teams choose to run back the same sides, they're kind of incentivized to keep the bans the same. We see the Syndra being removed, the cannon being removed. You see Viego actually a bit of deviation from the side of Team 6 Gaming, taking away Vayne Ripper's Viego. It's definitely one of those champions that sort of fits the role of the sort of carry champion that Vayne Ripper likes in these like 80 bruisers, but it's also more perhaps comp appropriate. You know, it's a lot more versatile than Talent, as we see the Trundle being banned as well. A lot of targeting happening towards Vayne Ripper's pool, but this time that means they left the Vladimir up. It's actually going to be Genius Uprising that keeps their bans the same. Very interesting, sort of unforced adaptation by TSG. Definitely means that they're coming into this with a plan, either with a Malzahar answer, or reading that once the Karthus is gone and the Xin Zhao is taken on one, that Genius Uprising perhaps has no answers to this pick.
Yeah, I mean, if they feel very confident about the Xin Zhao into the inevitable Talon, there it is, then potentially it could be a great option, but honestly, I mean, I guess the thinking is if they take Talon Vladimir, they won't have it anymore. There's the Zaya that got banned away in the first 3 last time around, but I mean, ideally you just win in 2, you're up 1. Not going to game 3 is the best case scenario.
Yeah, and you see the Jinx being answered into the Zaya. Zaya as a champion generally has a very polarizing set of matchups, just team composition-wise. She beats dive compositions and then kind of struggles into these long, sort of stand your ground, you know, space and team compositions, which is what TSG has drafted. They've drafted Jinx, which her bot ranges Zaya once she, you know, gets levels into her Q and uses her rockets, and Xin Zhao is very good at just sort of standing still, creating space with that Crescent Strike and like Crescent Guard. And it's just gonna be the Rakan answered by Genius Uprising, picking that Zaya Rakan that allows them to sort of have a much stronger laning phase. So it's really gonna be on Genius Uprising to sort of get an advantage in the bot lane. Because this time now they are the ones with the super strong early game 2v2.
Yeah, they definitely are. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I would love to see a Seraphine mid here. I think that enchanters work really well with Xin Zhao. Powering up your Jinx is also just so threatening. Getting pieces around those two can be a really threatening comp to have to deal with for Genius Uprising, but they'll go ahead and take the Cassante here on 4. I think it's a relatively safe blind. There's not a lot that outright threatens it, but
Yeah, definitely. And we'll see if Kaiskar is gonna opt into like split. Okay, like a split pusher, like the Gwen champion that can definitely outscale Cassante, sort of in the side lane, but also does have team fighting capabilities. And it's gonna be the Swain blind from Team 6 Gaming. That is the pick, sort of trying to play off of the fact that Genius Uprising comp is very, very short range. They have 3 melees locked already, and Zaya as a champion doesn't really have the most range. And it's going to be the Sylas locked in for Deimos. And this is a matchup where the Sylas loves having the Swain ult. It is just a massive ultimate for Swain to pick up, for Silas to pick up. A problem is when we look at which team benefits from Swain ult more, I sort of do give it to Team 6 Gaming because Genius Uprising, yes, you get the silence, yes, you get the good matchup, but suddenly now that's a fourth melee champion that's being locked into this like Silas Gwen composition, and it is kind of the Swain Gwen composition rather, and it is really hard to get past this. You need to be able to get past this front line and get onto this Jinx, or otherwise she's going to reset off of the first kill that she can find, and giving a Swain 4 melee champions to proc ult off of is a pretty good way to create a sort of unkillable frontline for this Jinx Lulu to fight on. So we'll see if Deimos can get an advantage in the lane itself using the counter matchup that he secured for himself, but if Fatal Blade is able to sort of survive and get to that mid late game, I still think that the Swain pick is very, very fine here.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is an incredible stand and fight draft from Team 6 Gaming. Xin Zhao does not mind getting engaged on at all and has a lot of protective tools, as you mentioned, with the Crescent Guard, with the Wind Becomes Lightning and the 3-Talon Strike there. And the 4 melees into Swain does just send off alarm bells that if they ever try and engage onto Team 6, it just feels like a losing battle. With the caveat that if you one-shot the Jinx with the Talon pick, then it might be considerably better.
Yeah, definitely. All eyes are going to be on Vein Ripper, on this Talon, his signature champion. And like you said, like there's so many targets that he can and sort of kind of needs to get assassination kills on. Talon as a champion is really, really effective at killing Gwen. Gwen really wants to space you with the W, and Talon presses R, walks into Gwen's face, and kills her. Same thing with this Lulu and this Jinx. If you're able to find them, isolate them, kill them before they can get their defensive spells out, then is going to be a massive pick because that is what the composition of Team 6 Gaming is sort of banking on. They're banking on this Jinx, getting a reset uncontested and using that attack speed to clean up the rest of the fight. And, if you're Zen and Swain are frontlining for a non-existent Jinx, one that has been assassinated by a Talon, it is going to be very, very difficult for them to win the fight. As we see, our producer is zooming in on Chosen of the Wolf Prestige Swain. Um, that's my
So
producer's proclivities are her own. It is a very nice skin. I
it is a
do
very
admire
nice skin.
Swain in the bot lane.
Uh, he's very buff for a guy that old. I would like to draw your attention to the electrocute that Nominee is running here. I don't know if this is an indicator that he wants to go for a damaging Rakan build, but it is at least a diversification to do more damage in the laning phase. Might be to try and help break through that Lulu shield, but it seems
It
a bit
is
odd to me.
It's very interesting. Historically, in the past, when Xayah was more meta, when Xayah Rakan like really, really wanted to opt into a rune setup for the laning phase, sometimes what they would do is they would both take the Hail of Blades, and what that would do was allow Xayah W, I mean, everyone knows that when Xayah and Rakan are playing together, Rakan gets more E range towards Xayah. That's their sort of like coupled E dater buff or whatever. But they also get an additional buff, whereas whenever Xayah presses her W, which is her attack speed steroid that gives her like a bit of on-hit damage, Rakan also gains that same effect. So what you would do is you'd both take Halo Blades, Xayah would press W, and then you're suddenly hitting like 6 auto attacks in the span of a second that all have that Xayah W passive. But this is Electrocute. This isn't Halo Blades. I don't know if he doesn't know. Maybe he just wants to one-shot them anyway without the ult or without the W passive. He did lose like a third of his HP before level 2, so kind of not looking good on that front. This is a bottom lane where if Immortal Doge and Nominee sort of have the same results as last time, where they sort of don't get that lead, they are sort of playing on the back foot, it is going to be very rough for them. In the middle lane game, as we see Deimos get a solo kill onto Fatal Blade. He goes down as well, but he's spamming the emote. He got that kill, and he is very, 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 excited about it. As I mean,
If I had
he didn't get the
if I had to
crash.
guess what happened, I think he tried to crash. He got the never move that we saw, and then I think he tried to dive the Silas and basically took too many tower shots.
We'll have to see. I don't know if we'll have a replay of this. Yes, we will. As Deimos gets the E in, and Yeah, I mean, Damo just found the trade on the bounce. We see, looking at the wave, it was it was pushing towards the Swain as another kill just happened while we were watching the replay. The last kill, Xin Zhao, the Rickus Rick, did not opt to finish his full clear. Actually looked for a gank on the mid lane instead. We see that he has only 21 farm, getting that early angle onto Deimos, who did lose his slash in that play. That is really big because now the Silas doesn't have any, it doesn't have teleport. And as we see, yeah, Xin Zhao just finished his red and walked directly up towards Deimos, using the flash as well to connect the wind to becomes lightning. And this is an absolutely huge kill. Looking at that wave, that was a cannon and 3 minions. That pretty much allows Fatal Blade to deny a bunch of XP from Deimos. We see that he has about a 1 wave advantage in terms of gold. In the bot lane too, Projecki getting very, very, very low. Ignite burned down onto him, but now bot lane sort of swinging in the favor of the Zyra Khan. Now that they're level 3, they have a lot more all-in threat.
They definitely do, and I think that that's something that you need to play on here. I'd love to see Rakan stepping a little further forward, looking to get some sort of a knockup onto this Jinx here, because while Lulu can make a play, it's a lot harder to do so when you're lower on mana and
See,
health.
Bane Ripper is in the mid lane looking for the kill into Fatal Blade. He also does not have his flash. That's going to be the rake, and that's going to secure a kill. And now we're back in the opposite scenario. Deimos is the one that has a wave coming towards him, while Fatal Blade died and does not have that teleport. I don't think Deimos has the HP to fully stay and like force a freeze and really, really punish. We'll see if Deimos is just able to crash this wave and get a base of his own. But there's a lot of action happening in the early game around this mid lane. The style of Swain, both teams have clearly identified as the matchup to watch.
Yeah, and I think it makes a lot of sense, right? You've got Swain, who is short ranged for a mage and has to play pretty far forward in the lane. Both of these AD junglers really want to take advantage of the short ranged mid laners, because if you can get yours ahead, you were talking about both of these guys like having the Swain ult. Having the further ahead team member in these fights can be a pretty big deal, as not much action aside from that, although Dragon is up now. Just Vision getting placed down for it. In terms of the side lanes, I think it's been pretty quiet. We did see Gwen almost get killed. We also saw Gwen almost lock down a solo kill before that. It's just pretty quiet, although I suspect Kaiskar might be looking for a needlework there. We will see Xin Zhao start up the Dragon here, and I think it's fine. I don't see any reason it wouldn't work, especially with Vayne Ripper recalling. So nice to get that early objective lead and start stacking towards those feats of strength.
Yeah, as we see this Gwen trading, getting a lot of damage onto the Santai. Once Gwen gets that 6, that is her first like huge spike. And you know, obviously at this point in the lane, she's just trying to get these QE procs to poke the Cassante down and get him low to prepare, an all-in on a bounce. Obviously, she's not gonna, fully dive the Cassante unless Proven No IQ makes a massive mistake. With that Cassante all out, it's gonna be very difficult for Gwen to pick up that solo kill. But getting Cassante low sort of really limits his options on how he can play the wave and, you know, potentially set up a kill on a bounce or something as we see Silas moving into the top lane. Vayne Ripper doing what he did last game and playing for the top side respawns of the Rickus Rick off of that first dragon.
Yeah, I think it's a nice look here. You've got a lot of prio. Swain moved bot and might be looking to make a dive happen, although I don't know if I like this without your jungler there. I don't think you have enough tankiness to make it happen, and he's going to walk back up to that mid lane. But the prio is good surrounding the spawn on this Void Grubs here, and
We could
I do
potentially
suspect the
see a
Rick is
play
Rick.
onto Vayne Ripper. Saw this happen last game with the Grand Starfall, but this time Talon as a champion. It's a lot more buttons to get out as we see on the minimap. Talon is going home. He's pressing E and then he's going home. Mid lane,
There was a
both
crazy
ultimates
play in
were,
the mid lane.
yeah, both ultimates were popped. Silas flashes in. Demo's not going to be able to get the Demon Flare onto Fatal, but he's going to live with one. The Rick is looking for the play onto Vayne Ripper, but he is going to use the Talon ultimate. Jumps over the wall, doesn't get taken down. Demo still has the Swain ult ticking. Doesn't have any mana though. The Jinx Rocket is going to pick up the feats of warfare and a play on a knife's edge. Deimos just didn't have the mana to pick it up, and Fatal Blade going to get the best of the enemy mid laner in this long extended play. Deimos did have the advantage in lane before, also did have that advantage in the starting play. We saw when both of them had burned their ultimates, Fatal Blade was the one that was 1 HP. Fatal Blade was the one that had to back away and let his Swain ult drop. But Proven No IQ looking for the play, gets the knockback, ults Kaiskar into the tower. The Gwen Hollowed Miss is going to be used to just try and get himself out of there. But Proven No IQ does have the flash, does have the Q3, dashes forward, flashes, hits the knockup auto into the W. That's going to be a solo kill for Proven No IQ onto Kaiskar. And in the bot lane, there's an all-in, but these two rage minions actually pick up the kill for the Jinx. Xayah does get the trade, but that's going to be a double kill in a 2v1 for the side of Team 6 Gaming. And in the mid lane, the Rick picks up another kill onto Deimos, but it was actually traded. Fatal Blade went down as well. Everything is happening everywhere, all at once, all the time, and everyone is dying.
Yeah, let's unpack this one lane at a time. Top lane, it was a great play from Proven No IQ, just managing to chain all of that damage together and run that Gwen down. As here's what happened mid
Yeah,
lane.
looking in the mid lane, yeah, they were looking for the pick onto Deimos, sent 3 members mid as well, but Fatal Blade walked into a Silas E and died. We saw Projecki was up there, which is why Nominee and Immortal looked for the 2v1 play onto Rigby, but Rigby he didn't have a care in the world. He got the kill onto Nominee, and we saw those two caster minions actually pick up the kill onto Immortal as he got that last Q on. I mean, the thing is, if Xayah didn't go back in and get that Q, I don't think he would have been able to kill the Jinx. But that's just a testament to how well Rigby was playing that 1v2.
Yeah, I think the kill was so threatening, and of course, Xayah being solo health was dangerous there. As where is
Vayne
he a
Ripper looks
bit
for
of
the
jungle
invade.
combat?
Does have a level advantage onto the Rickus Rick. Nominee is here too, gets knocked away, but Vayne Ripper with the ultimate is going to look for the kill. Does pick it up. That's going to be a shutdown given over to Vayne Ripper. Projecki is here. The Silas ultimate is going to use to pick up the Lulu ult. That's going to be used to save Nominee. But now this Swain ultimate is ticking down onto Deimos. He gets the W, tries to heal with that Kingslayer, but it's not going to be enough. Nominee goes back in, but he is the one that's going to go down. Kaiskar is run from the top lane. Deimos is going to go over to Kaiskar, and while Vayne Ripper lives with his life, he does sacrifice his 2 comrades to do so.
Yeah, I question making that play with only 2 members there. I mean, you didn't have Rakan, or not Rakan, you didn't have anyone but Rakan, but you didn't have Lulu on Vision, and obviously the wild growth to save your Rakan is good, but continuing the fight is, I think, where they went a little bit wrong there. They got caught by the never move and pulled back in. After that, you just sort of have to cut your losses. You saw, well, Deimos moved, Vayne Ripper just said, I gotta get out of here.
They play the Ricochet Strike walking into Nominee. That's going to be the play off. I think the main important thing that we have to take away from that fight is that while Silas, yes, is a lane counter to the Swain, is very good at fighting him and obviously used the ultimate very well, Silas will not have permanent access to Swain ultimate. That fight, Silas had Lulu ultimate, and Lulu ult didn't do shit. And this Swain ultimate was just permanently taking onto the Silas and onto this Rakan, and it meant that the side of Genius Uprising just didn't have enough damage to cut through the Swain. They both died for it.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head of what went wrong. Is on the minimap, we're going to get to see the Super Mega Death Rocket go wide there. Both junglers invading each other's blue side, but it will be the response by the bot lane of Genius Uprising as Deimos is in trouble here.
Yeah, Damo's looking for the trade, but this time he's the one that's slow. He does have that Swain ultimate now. Going to use that abscond to dash away from those key skill shots. If that's never move or the wind becomes lightning had hit, that surely would have been Deimos' demise. As you know, both junglers just cross mapping, slight gold lead for the side of Team 6 Gaming, but very important. Looking at the objectives, I believe Team 6 Gaming has the Feats of War. They got 2 grubs, they have 2 dragons, and they have the Rickus Rick looking for the dive onto a Mortar Doge. He does it, the wind becomes lightning. That's going to be the dash in. Nominee is going to be the second kill up next. Cassandre is TPing down, but it may be a little too late. Deimos pops the Swain ultimate. Rigby kites in, looking to get that reset, but he may have gotten a little too close. Proven No IQ looking for the play, but now Fatal Blade is here. Fatal Blade pops the Swain ultimate of his own. That's going to mean Deimos goes down first. The minions are coming in. Proven No IQ looking to drag them away, try and stop himself from getting dope. Proven No IQ though, gonna get The Q3 doesn't hit it onto Projecki. Projecki goes down to 1 HP. Vein Ripper's here, flashes forward, gets the blades down onto the Zinzao. That's going to be the first kill for Vein Ripper. Doesn't have enough HP to go for more. Rigby and Projecki are so low. That's going to be Cassante taking out the Jinx ultimate with his E, but he's going to be rooted up by the Swain. He's going to go down as well. Tried to save his talent, but in the end, he was the one that paid for it. And still a positive gold trade coming out from the side of Team 6 Gaming. Yes, Vein Ripper has been able to find 3 kills, but there's just massive discrepancies among the other lanes. Rigby has a pretty sizable lead over Immortal Doge, and Deimos is 2 and 6 right now. So this might be a repeat of last game where Vein Ripper's lead is just sort of irrelevant. He's going to have to sort of do something with these item spikes. He does have the opportunity. He is almost he's about a third of the way to his second item as well, and we're gonna need to see him making the proactive plays, him trying to find picks onto this Lulu, this Jinx, or this Gwen, because right now the Rick is sort of dictating the tempo of this game.
Yeah, and the minions did push down that bot side tower, so it is going to be the red outlines around the boots of Team 6 once again, as Rigby finding a good bit of damage on here to start. Don't know if this will turn into a big play, but
Yeah, Rick gets the Q1, Q2 on the Vein Ripper, and even though Talon jumps over the wall, he still has that knockup available to take down Nominee, and that's going to result in this mid tower going down to the side of Team 6 Gaming. There doesn't really seem to be a cross map to be had. Kaiskar alone against the Zaya. Zaya has to sit under inner tower. She is too scared of getting dove by this one item Gwen, as you know, this massive leads across the map being built by Team 6 Gaming. Again,
well, Zaya
that is
is
off.
rightfully scared of that that Gwen needlework available to her, but there was no Featherstorm available to Zaya until just a couple seconds ago, so has to respect that the Gwen all-in can just take her from 100% health down to a gray screen, as Herald will be claimed here, so all 3 feats of strength would have gone the way of Team 6. And
Definitely.
I think you made a very good point that it is just all over the map that it has been Team 6 winning, and it's for plays like this where
Yeah.
it's just overforcing on the
Improve.
side of Uprising.
Yeah, Proven No IQ sort of DoorDashes 300 gold to the side of Team 6 Gaming, looking for potentially pick onto Projecki with absolutely nothing but a Recon at his side. And now, with that Rift Herald, they're going to be able to start breaking open the base of Genius Uprising. Kaiskar pilots the bus, looking to drive it over towards the inner. We'll see if he has good enough drifting skills. Yes, he does. That's going to be a big angle down onto Deimos. We didn't even see it happen, but Fatal Blade and Deimos were fighting, and Rigby with that super mega death rocket able to pick up that kill. As now with
Something's
Deimos
changed.
dead, the inner tower going down. Okay, not going to be a fight happening. Rigby just look at the amount of damage that Rigby is able to do just off the resets. The range advantage of this rockets is just absolutely massive for the side of Team 6 Gaming.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say some things changed and some stayed the same. It seems like Fatal Blade and Deimos are just going to trade their entire health bars into each other, and once those super mega death rockets start flying, you cannot take that trade because Swain wins every time because it's never a true 1v1.
Yeah, definitely. Just a lot of disconnected plays happening from Genius Uprising. I feel like I've never seen them this game make a coordinated play with at least like 4 members alive at the same time. Just seems like people are running to corpses and then becoming corpses themselves. So that's gonna be the third dragon started up by the side of Team 6 Gaming. This is gonna be an Ocean Soul this game, and they're gonna put themselves on Ocean Soul point.
Yeah, and that's such a rough spot to be in as Genius Uprising because a soul point this early in the game, and it's an Ocean Soul to boot, so much extra sustain on a team that wants nothing else is just brutal to have to play into here. They may be looking to overload Proven No IQ here, but this is a Cassante. And there is 3 members in the area. Looks like no play, they'll be content to just put down some vision and push out their waves. Gwen is answering Kaiskar, is answering the Silas and Deimos on the top side of the map there, so not even going to be able to claim that objective bounty, but the Rickest Rick wants blood here.
Yeah, Vayne Rapper does have that jump, but doesn't make it all the way over the wall. Now the Ricketts Rick is coming back in. Nominee pops Australia, tries to defend his Talon. But look at the amount of pressure that Ricketts Rick is able to exert, looking for a play onto Deimos. Now Deimos has no mana. I mean, Lulu ultimate used a bit prematurely, but we see a siege being set up for the side of Team 6 Gaming on this top lane inner tower as Zaya is going to be able to clear the wave. Will there be a dive happening? Kaiskar goes in using the Hollow Myth, but gets charmed up. This could be the play. Mortar has to use the Feather Storm, but does pick up the shutdown onto Kaiskar. Rick is able to trade a kill back onto Nominee. The fight is going all out as Cassante goes in. Doesn't hit the W onto anyone. Vayne Ripper pops the ultimate. Will he be able to get the assassination? No, Rick is just not taking enough damage now. Vayne Ripper gets hit by the zap, has to flash away and shielded up by his Cassante. There is no super Rebecca Death Rocket to secure the kills. Rick goes in, has a Lulu shielding. This is the power of the Enchanter pick. The zap slows, proven no IQ, and the Rocket is going to secure the Rampage for Rigby. In the bot lane, or in the mid lane rather, Deimos goes down in a solo kill to Fatal Blade. The Swain is winning the Swain Silence matchup due to all the help that he got from his team, and now it spells disaster for the side of Genius Uprising. It looked like a potential good pick, but Immortal had to burn the Feather Storm, and Vayne Ripper just did not have enough damage. Does have the two items, the opportunity and the Black Cleaver, but just wasn't enough to get through the Lulu shielding and the Zinzao healing.
I wonder if maybe there was an angle where, Xin Zhao has more health and maybe Jinx takes more damage from
Play
getting
potentially
those.
be started onto Fatal Blade. Vayne Ripper jumps over the wall off Phenomeny's base interruption, and that is going to be a kill going on for Vayne Ripper. 4-0 and 0 on this Talon, picks up another shutdown. He has to find something with this gold. He didn't have enough damage last time. I mean, did build the Black Cleaver, which is generally considered as a supporting item, but we see 3 Ninja Tabis on the side of Team 6 Gaming. There is deceptively just like a lot of armor that you have to cut down. It's just building the Black Cleaver in order to allow his um Zaya and his Cassante to deal more damage as well. I mean, given that the Talon sort of needs to be hitting these damage thresholds by himself, I would have maybe preferred a more selfish item. As the fight starts up, the Ricketts Rick looks for the knockup, doesn't get it, but that's going to be the needlework going down. Hits a 60% slow onto Nominee and Immortal. He's going to be picked up by the R3 and the Q as going to be a pick going over. We see TB coming out from Fatal Blade into the bot lane, looking for potentially a pick onto Deimos with the bot lane. Ricketts Rick and Kaiskar going over the wall. Deimos has nowhere to go, picks up the Zinzao ultimate, uses it, tries to create some space, gets slowed up by the zap. Kaiskar goes into the ultimate zone. Vayne Ripper looking for the trade, but gets knocked up right as he uses the ultimate. He doesn't have any HP, he doesn't have any damage. It's going to be another kill picked up for the side of TSG, and Genius Uprising can't get anything on the other side. They have a Cassante. They don't have a split pusher. Cassante walks his way back to the base, tries to defend, but the mid inhibitor has already gone down. And seems that Team 6 Gaming is satisfied with what they got from that play. Just probably going to take the Otacon as an exit objective and get their bases in before this Ocean Soul.
Yeah, I like taking the Otacon as the prize here. There's really not much you can do to push for any sort of a play in response to that. Moving into the top side is great, and look at the river here, but even if you take mid-tier 1, the permanent power of this Otacon is just too much, as Fatal Blade does get engaged on here.
Gage happening onto Fatal Blade. He does pop the ultimate and does have that Zhonya's Hourglass, creating so much space. Does get knocked up by the Cassante, but Rigby has already picked up the first kill. He's already secured his reset. Deimos goes down second. Double kill, triple kill going on to Rigby. This could be 5, proving no IQ, looking for the play onto Rigby, but it is not enough. The kill is going to be picked up by Fatal Blade. And Vayne Ripper, the only member left standing, has to recall in the Raptors pit. Team 6 Gaming can end the game here. They do have that super minion coming from the inhibitor that they secured earlier, and now it is Vayne Ripper against the Earl, against the world, and my money is on the world as the Ricketts Rick emoting as he walks down the base. Vayne Ripper looks to smite that super, does pick it up, does get stunned up, knocked up by the Lulu Wild Growth. Rakan is back. Nominee, will he be able to electrocute the entirety of Team 6 Gaming? I do not think so. Team 6 Gaming pick up the wave. Actually, the rest of the team is respawning. Vayne Ripper may have created enough space. We'll see if they choose to go for the end anyway, using the inhib tower resets to try and just get some damage, but this is a 4v5. Vayne Ripper down. The Ricketts Rick. It looks like Team 6 Gaming playing a little passively. Does get the root though onto Nominee. He's going to live with 1 HP, has to ult and flash out. Proven no IQ is now going to go down. Rigby, Legendary, gets 1, gets 2, gets 3, gets 4. A quadra kill for Rigby, 9-5-6 as Team 6 Gaming picks up a very dominant 2-0.
Yeah, that was impressive from Team 6. The game 2 was even more dominant than the game 1, I feel. And I think for as selfishly as you have to play as Talon in that game, I do agree that the Black Cleaver was a bit questionable, but he was so well played by Team 6. We got to see really every aspect of what we had talked about in their draft. The Gwen pulverizing the Cassante in a side lane. We got to see the Swain out team fighting and eventually out 1v1ing that Silas, and Jinx just being a monster alongside the Xin Zhao when paired up with the Lulu.
Definitely, the series felt very, very one-sided. It felt like the individual laners, despite having some slip-ups, time and again, we saw Kaiskar get solo killed once. We saw Fatal Blade walk too close to Deimos once. But despite small mistakes overall, just in each lane, it felt like they were playing the map better. We saw, especially in the bot lane, I want to point out Rigby956 sort of solo owning the enemy bot lane on that Tristana and on that Jinx, was able to generate such a lead, and we saw him get a double kill in the 1v2. However, if I were to give my MVP for this game, while I feel like all the lanes played admirably for Team 6 Gaming, I would have to give it to the Rickus Rick on this Xin Zhao and on this Pantheon. Time and time again, he was making plays happen, using the Grand Starfall on the Pantheon, that global ultimate. But even when he didn't have that tool, on this Xin Zhao, just walking in, popping Q1, Q2, Q3 on these champions of Genius Uprising, and it felt like the Rickus Rick just knew his limits perfectly. We saw in game one on the Pantheon, he was able to sort of shift to a more defensive role as it got to late game, creating space for Kaiskar's Aurora and Rigby's Tristana. And so definitely, my MVP would go to the Rickus Rick on the jungle here.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I mean, thinking almost every play that happened, the Rickest Rick is there and he's being a part of it and he's influencing the map and propelling his team forward. I think in game 2, to pick a moment, it's got to be that siege on the tier 2 where the play starts out, it looks really good for Genius Uprising, but the Rickest Rick just does not die in that fight, and he's engaging again and again and staying alive. Obviously, with the help of the Lulu, but knowing your limits when you're that low HP is such a knife's edge to ride, and it really makes or breaks a play.
Yeah, definitely. This is a series of two very competent junglers. As on the other side, Vayne Ripper was definitely the standout performer for Genius Uprising. Was able to find kills on these like very difficult to pilot mechanical champions like the Karthus, like the Talon, champions that we don't usually see in a competitive environment. And we saw how Vayne Ripper was able to sort of balance, going in and going out, able to get damage, get picks on both of these champions, despite being in very, very terrible game states. So definitely, very, very proud of Vayne Ripper on that talent pick as well. And, a very good series. Thank you to Team 6 Gaming and Genius Uprising. I have been Cherry Coke, and I've been joined by my lovely co-caster, the Short Factor. And we will see you guys whenever this. He hasn't told me when we see you guys next, but we'll see you at some point, maybe,
I'll see you
possibly.
at some point.
Tomorrow. Okay, I'm getting word that we will be back here tomorrow, 8 p.m. EST, with Titan Olympus going down to the sort of D4 Cap League. Definitely, if you want a bit of a clown fiesta, you can tune in tomorrow, 8 p.m. EST, twitch.tv/Titan Esports NA. Be there or be square. I will see you guys tomorrow.
We'll see you then.